Hello everyone, class is very much in session. My name is Jack from Cultaholic.com, filling in for Mr. Adam Pacitti, who's been up in lovely sunny Scotland. He's been to Glasgow to take part in a special show with Kenny, and at the end of the show, if you haven't seen already on social media, Kenny made a very big announcement of his next big guest on one of his tours with Inside the Ropes. It's massive. It's really big. Go and check out Kenny's Twitter if you haven't already found out, because it's bloody huge. But enough of that. Let's concentrate on all of WWE action that we've seen over the past night with SmackDown Live Graded. So the New Day opened the show by coming out with the right mixture, I think, of their usual happy-go-lucky funness and also a new intense edge, because they've obviously just lost the SmackDown Tag Team Championships to the Bar. So this was the right sort of tone, I think. They weren't completely sullen and downcast because it's the New Day, and they're never really like that, but they were a little bit more amped up than usual, and I appreciated that. They were basically saying, well, we thought the Big Show was cool because the Big Show had turned heel, which led to them losing the belts, and they were like, we thought he was cool, but as we all know, the Big Show flip-flops more than a flapjack. Flips more than a flapjacks flip? I've never baked flapjacks myself personally. I don't know if there's a lot of flipping involved. Surely pancake would have made more sense. Did they say pancake? I've written flapjack in my notes, but no, I'm pretty sure they said flapjack. Can someone explain in the comments, please? Anyway, the New Day went, right, we're really angry, we're really pissed off, we want to have a fight. And then the Bar came out, and it turns out that it was all going to set up the first match of the night between Kofi Kingston and the Big Show. Kofi looked really scared. Big Show dominated this match, or what could I guess be considered a match loosely, because it only lasted about a minute. He was hitting chokeslam after chokeslam. Didn't really look like he wanted to go for the win even. He was just trying to inflict punishment on Kofi. So the New Day and the Bar all rushed the ring, turned into a little bit of a brawl, and the heels got the upper hand. I'm going to give this a B-. I don't think it was really much of a match, to be honest. It only lasted a minute or so, as I say. And also, at the heart of it, this storyline is really just Big Show remembering that he's a giant again, which he seems to do every sort of year or two. But at the same time, it was entertaining enough. I watched it, I thought, yeah, this is all right, this is cool, it all made sense. So even though it's not the most high-profile storyline around these days, I still think it was a perfectly acceptable opening to the show. Next up, we had a tag match between AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan against the Usos. Now, this is a rematch from last time around where the Usos won because they're an experienced tag team, whereas Styles and Bryan aren't a tag team, and also they're rivals who have a big title match against one another coming up pretty soon. This week, the Usos won because they're an experienced tag team, and AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan aren't a tag team and are actually rivals who have a title match coming up. It was the same story. Yes, in this match again, AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan had a bit of a miscommunication where Styles accidentally clocked Bryan with the Pele kick. It all led to the Usos taking control, and eventually they got the pinfall over the WWE champion AJ Styles with a big splash from the top rope. And then afterwards, backstage, in a little backstage segment, Daniel Bryan was really passive-aggressive towards AJ and said, "Did you kick me on purpose? Seems like you might have done. Too sweet, bro." And I was like, oh, it's gonna get intense pretty soon. Now, I didn't know what to grade this initially because I really don't like it when WWE just repeats storylines from one week to the next, but I guess it's only the second time they've done this, and a different person took the pinfall, and there was the little backstage segment to flavour it a little bit as well. So it wasn't a carbon copy exactly, but it was very similar. So I was a bit down on it because of that. But on the positive side, it was a really good match. I really enjoyed it. And when you've got four people as good and as talented as Styles, Bryan, and the Usos in the ring together, it's obviously, chances are it's going to be a pretty good match. So I'm going to give it a B. The match was really good. Didn't enjoy the repetition of the storyline, but I think collectively, on balance, it was still a positive segment. Next up, we cut to that thing we saw reported over the sort of course of the week, where Charlotte Flair had gone down to the Performance Center to give a talk to the NXT women's superstars, all about being a big badass and being good at wrestling. I don't know, something like that probably. So Charlotte was there giving a talk, and then she said, oh, does anyone have any questions? That's the talk finished now. Ask away. I can't remember who it was, but one of the NXT superstars went, how does it feel to be in the first ever last woman standing match? And I thought, this is just like a conference call sort of question. Like when I'm on the conference call with the old WWE and people come up with questions like that, like, are you looking forward to the Super Showdown? Or blah, blah, blah. It was like just one of those sort of questions, which I found a little bit strange. It felt like my job was coming to life on the screen in front of me. It was quite something. As Charlotte started to answer the question though, someone else went, I have a question, that's right, I'm Irish, guess what? It was Becky Lynch. That sounded nothing like Becky Lynch at all. She came through, went, why don't you take some questions from me? After all, I'm the champ. She attacked Charlotte. Charlotte fought back a little bit, but Becky got the upper hand before storming out of there, presumably to get an Uber back to wherever SmackDown was this week, because I don't think it was in Orlando. So yeah, she probably had quite a journey on her hands. Again, this was a segment that I had mixed feelings about, because on one hand, I really enjoyed the whole performance center aspect of it. I enjoyed that that's something that Charlotte was seen as going to do. It felt like in Grand Theft Auto, where you drive past a crime that's going on that's got absolutely nothing to do with you. Made WWE feel like a sort of living, breathing world that exists just outside of what we see on television every week, or on, WWE.com. It feels like there's more going on. It feels like a habitat, like an environment. I really liked that. One thing that I didn't like, though, was the fact that Shayna Baszler was there. All the heels and faces of the NXT Women's Superstars were all there just together, just sort of listening to Charlotte. And I thought, don't sacrifice the intensity of NXT for a storyline on the main roster. So I didn't really appreciate that too much. But the brawl was pretty good. Becky's a wonderful heel. And I really want her to be a babyface. And I still agree that they've got this storyline the wrong way around. Charlotte should be the bad guy. Becky should be the good guy. But Becky's so good at being a heel, it's just becoming harder to think that way week after week. So I guess we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm going to give this a B. I, on the whole, liked it. I thought this was a pretty strong start to SmackDown Live, actually. Next up, though, after having a strong sort of first hour to SmackDown, we then got Aidan English versus Rusev, which was like, that wasn't a Bulgarian accent at all in the slightest. I really didn't enjoy this, to be honest with you. It wasn't really much of a match. It was effectively a squash. Aidan English was getting chucked about all over the place for a few seconds, really. Then he regained the upper hand in the match. Then he leaned over the ropes to taunt Lana on the outside. She threw one of her shoes in his face. He fell back down into the ring, mashed a kick, accolade, and Aidan English tapped out straight away. And well, thanks for that, English. There's your little 15 minutes in the spotlight. See you round. I'm going to give this a D, and it wasn't the fault of English or Rusev or Lana, it's just the storytelling. I was really worried when Aidan English turned on Lana and Rusev that this was going to happen, that English would be beaten really quickly and then cast aside and would then struggle to find his place in WWE. And yeah, I think this is exactly what's going to happen. It didn't even happen on a pay-per-view. English has just been squashed massively on an episode of SmackDown after a few weeks of building up his big heel turn, so It was my least favourite bit of SmackDown, I think. I really didn't enjoy this, and I do wonder what Aidan's going to do next. Hopefully he can find a place somewhere, because I do enjoy him. He's entertaining as a heel or a face, both on the microphone and in the ring, and he deserves to find something, but this made him look weak. Next up, we had Miz TV with special guest Rey Mysterio, who is, of course, now working, I think, a full-time schedule, or at least a more full-time schedule with WWE than just the odd appearance now and again. He's back. He's a proper bona fide WWE superstar again. So Miz was sat there with Rey Mysterio, and he basically did the classic, this was a classic Miz TV segment where the Miz really winds up the babyface opposite him. The babyface kind of outsmarts him verbally and makes him look like a fool, and then Miz attacks him, and then Rey got the upper hand, and then Miz bailed out the ring. That was essentially this segment in a nutshell, but I didn't really know what to think of it, because it was weird seeing Rey Mysterio portrayed as just a regular Joe, just someone who'll appear on Miz TV, just like the Ascension word or something. Maybe not the Ascension, that would be a bit strange. I'm going to give this a B-. I thought it was pretty good on the whole, but I noticed something when Rey Mysterio was talking on the mic. He reminded me a lot, even though they don't have any sort of similar voices at all, he reminded me a lot of Kurt Angle, because when you get these old guys who are from a previous generation, who worked off bullet points and weren't really scripted as much, who now have to adhere to such a rigid script, they talk in a weird way. And it's hard to describe, but if you watch any Kurt Angle promo these days, or this Rey Mysterio one, you see that it's kind of them really reining in their old sort of freewheeling style, and they really sound like robots almost. It sounds really bad, but it doesn't really work that well with guys from that previous generation. When you look at newer stars who are used to going off a tight script and still making it sound improvised, like Dean Ambrose is the master of it, that's when it works really well. Not so much with Ray. This all led to a match between Rey Mysterio and The Miz, a match that I actually really enjoyed. It wasn't anything like spectacular or out of this world, or even like particularly pay-per-view quality or anything like that, but for the middle of a SmackDown show, it was perfectly serviceable. It felt like a fresh matchup, even though I'm sure they've wrestled countless times in the past. I can't remember that recently, so I was like, oh, this is pretty good. It built nicely. They started hitting their big moves towards the end, and then Rey eventually caught Miz with the 619 and the splash from the top and picked up the victory, and the crowd were loving it. And I'm going to give it a B. Again, it was nothing amazing or spectacular. It was just a nice, solid part of the show. I'm just throwing the Bs out there, so there's been so many Bs already on this episode of Graded. Well, I guess it was just that sort of show. I can't do anything about that. I can't be saying, yeah, it was good, but I've given too many Bs already. Have an F. It's a B. Next up, we had a match that was, well, it was supposed to be a match, but it never got going, between Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville and Naomi and Asuka, but they were cut off by the Iconics, who appeared at the top of the stage and walked down the ramp doing their promo, basically saying, we're going to win the Battle Royal at Evolution, the match that has caused quite a stir online because a lot of people are saying this is just an excuse to lump loads of female superstars in there and basically go, there you go, have a match. And it's got some people in it who really deserve to have more of a spotlight at Evolution, I think. But regardless, the Iconics came out and said, we're going to win. Then they were cut off by Lana, who said she was going to win. And then Carmella came out and said, oh, it's time for a dance break. She danced a bit. And then she was jumped by Zelina Vega, who threw her in the ring. All of the women got in the ring and they had a big old brawl. And it was the sort of thing that happens before every single Battle Royal that's pre-announced before a pay-per-view, where they all took turns throwing each other out. And were like pretending as if to be like, if this was a Battle Royal, you'd be eliminated now, ha ha ha, because once one woman was thrown out, she'd just stay on the outside. She just adhered to these imaginary rules. The segment ended with Asuka getting the upper hand. She kicked Zelina Vega in the head and stood as the last woman left in the ring, as if to say, if this were a Battle Royal, I would have won. Although I don't think she threw Zelina Vega outside, like over the top. I think she just rolled under the bottom. Maybe that's an omen. Maybe Zelina's gonna win on Sunday. Anyway, I'm gonna give this a C-. I didn't enjoy it at all, really. I feel for a lot of the women in this match, or this segment, particularly Asuka, who deserves a singles match absolutely on every pay-per-view. She's that good. And many of the others as well. Yeah, I also don't like the whole pretend to have a Battle Royal thing. We've seen it a million times before and it's just not for me. But, you know, C- is the grade. Then here comes the money. Here we go. Ching ching, bling bling, dollar dollar. Kazuchika Okada made his way. Shane McMahon made his way out to the ring in a lovely suit and basically hyped Crown Jewel, hyped the World Cup tournament that's coming up to determine the best in the world. And as he said that, the crowd started chanting for CM Punk. And Shane did something that not many superstars do these days and actually acknowledge the chance, because when you're the boss's son, you can get away with whatever you want, and said, no, I don't think he's actually in the tournament, guys, sorry. And it sort of made the chance die down a little bit. Shane then said, are you ready for the main event? Here it is. And then left. And I was like, was there any need for Shane to be on SmackDown this week? I think it was just to meant to like remind us all that he's back. But I'm going to give this a question mark grade because I've got no idea what the point was of it. I don't know why Shane was out there. They could have done this in a video package. He didn't get involved in a storyline, thank God. And I just don't really know what he was doing there. Nice to see him. Off you go. Let's have the main event now. Bye, Shane. And finally, the main event, which was straight out of about 10 years ago. It was Jeff Hardy versus Randall Keith Orton, the Viper in his veins. This match was pretty slow and a little bit ragged in places. And yeah, it built up to a nice sort of crescendo where they were starting to hit their big moves. Jeff missed a swanton off the apron to the outside. It's just like on his back and it looked nasty. Randy Orton won with an RKO, and I'm going to give this match a C-. It wasn't for me really at all. I didn't get the point of it, especially because these two have just had a Hell in a Cell match not too long ago, in which Jeff Hardy took a terrifying bump, and Randy Orton seemed to win in the most climactic fashion ever. And now they're having another match, and Randy's still trying to stick his finger through Jeff Hardy's ear hole, and it's like, when's the blow off? If that didn't blow off the feud, what's going to blow it off? And I thought Randy had moved on to like more like opponents or more potential opponents in the future, but he's back wrestling Jeff Hardy. It was a weird one. I didn't really understand it too much, and that's why I get to C-, I'm afraid. So that's it for this week's SmackDown Live Graded. I'm going to give the show overall a B-. I thought that it started off really strong. I enjoyed the tag division stuff with the New Day and Big Show and the Bar. I enjoyed the Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair stuff. I enjoyed the AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan stuff with the Usos. And then it sort of went a bit up and down after that, really. I didn't enjoy the main event. I don't know why Shane was there. But I think on balance, the positives outweighed the negatives just about. But for once this week, Raw was actually much better than SmackDown was. And it looks like the Blue brand needs to get its act together, pull its bloody socks up, throw a shocking heel turn in there like Dean Ambrose did on Raw. Go on. Don't know, I'm just turning on SmackDown, probably because I'm the Raw graded man, and I'm filling in for Adam Pacitti. But rest assured, he will be back next week for Graded, and I'll be back obviously on Tuesday doing Monday Night Raw's Graded. So I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Thank you very much for watching this video. You can find me on Twitter if you want to Jack the Jobber. You can follow us all generally at Cultaholic, and check out our Patreon as well if you want, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, of course, if you haven't already, to hit subscribe and to join us.